Hi, Jim Matoka here with a how-to video for HobbyFanatic.com. Today I wanted to share with you a faux stone painting technique that I used on my Halloween display this year. Now, there are many different faux stone painting techniques, and which one you choose depends in a large part on what kind of stone it is you're trying to reproduce. The technique that I'm going to show you today would largely be used for something like sandstone or limestone that doesn't have a lot of texture or variation in a single piece of stone. So like if you imagine marble, there might be a lot of lines and veins and different variation within one piece of stone. Whereas something like sandstone or limestone is a little more uniform within one piece, and then you might have variations between the blocks. Okay? So that's what I'm going to be showing you today. Now the first step in any project like this is to do your research, go take photographs of buildings maybe similar to what you're trying to build in your area, look on the internet. Google Images is a great place to go. So over here are a couple of the pictures I found and printed out that were sort of my reference throughout the entire project. Okay? We're looking at Elgin Cathedral here. So that's very important. It's going to help you establish some key details that you'll need as we go forward. All right? So let me show you what all you need to make this work. For this project, you need 3 or 4 gallons of interior latex paint. You can use exterior, but it's probably overkill for a Halloween project. One of those colors is going to be your base color, so you're going to need enough to cover your entire project. The rest of them you'll need probably less than half that amount. You'll also need flat black latex and flat black spray paint. Of course, you'll need a way to apply. Rollers and brushes work great for small projects, but if you're doing something large, I highly recommend an airless sprayer. It makes things go much faster. The only drawback there is there's a lot of cleanup time, so not practical for small projects. You're also going to need sponges. If you have 4 colors of paint, you're going to need 3 sponges. The best ones that I found are in the tile aisle for tile cleanup. If you get those and cut them in half, they fit perfectly into the top of a 1-gallon can of paint. You're also going to need a way to apply water or thinned out color on the last step of the project. I highly recommend a garden sprayer. Now a lot of people do this with Windex type bottles. Those do work, but a garden sprayer makes that process go much faster and easier. Okay, let's take a look at selecting our colors next before we get started. Okay, now to select your color, you're going to go back to your reference photograph. The first color we're going to pick, we're going to call it primary color, and that's the predominant color of the stone. A real good way to do this is to put the picture up on a wall, walk across the room and look at it, and just say, what's the primary color that I see? Go to your paint store, find a color in that ballpark. Doesn't have to be perfect, just get it in the ballpark. Okay, there's our primary color. Now next we're going to look at our grout. And we're going to stay in the same color family. So if you have this on one of those cards in the paint store, you're now going to be going up and down in the same color family. Stay in that family for all these colors. So we're looking at our grout. In our case, our grout is quite a bit lighter than our base stone. So go up a few shades lighter and pick your base color. Okay? This is now your base. So this is going to become your grout, and it's also one of the colors in your stone. Okay? Now, some grout is dark, and a lot of people do, especially doing Halloween decorations, like to do a black or very dark or almost black grout, and that's good. It gives a real high contrast look and it looks really good at night. It all depends on the effect you're trying to achieve. Okay? Now, again, going back to our picture, find a couple of accent colors. Stay in that same family. A good rule of thumb is just go up and down a couple of colors in that family for your accents. Okay? One accent color. Now, if you're doing a modern building where there's not a lot of variation in color, you may be done at this step. But if you're doing an older building, you may even go to a darker color. Okay? Now again, I went darker, darker, darker in mine. It all depends on where you are. If you're at the dark end of the spectrum, you could be working lighter colors. It's all up to you. Alright? But now we have our base palette chosen. Primary color, base color, and 2 accent colors. We're ready to get started. Next step, pretty self-explanatory. Paint your entire wall your base color. Okay, we finished up our base color. So now, time to grab your sponge and start with your primary color next. Now, we're going to sort of, not randomly, start coloring in individual blocks. There's really no reason to wait for your base color to dry. You can go ahead and start on this right away. Okay, there we go, got a few of those. Now, next start adding in your accent colors. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, you've got to be careful not to do polka dots. If you look at stone and buildings, it's often, you'll see groups of color together. Like if you look at my picture here, you'll see, okay, there's a whole bunch of one color, maybe because they came from a certain part of the quarry. So they got a batch of stone that was all one color, or because they weathered together. So careful not to make polka dots. It's okay to group stone colors together. Okay. Sponges work real well here because they keep the accent colors from getting down into the grout. Okay, one note on when you have details like cracks, is a crack into the stone, go ahead and try to get your accent color down in there. A lot of people will come back later and fill those in with black. That's fine also, it makes them pop. But if you're not going to do that, go ahead and get your stone color. Think about the fact that, okay, if I got a crack into the stone, you're going to see the stone color all the way down in there. And finally, my last accent color. This one really pops. One thing I like to do when you're doing these kind of projects is really think about the way these buildings were built. Think about the fact that sometimes stone, they would run out of stone at one quarry and they might have switched to a different quarry. So you might have sections of your wall that have a lot more of this accent color, and then there might be almost none of that accent in another section of the wall. That's okay, those kind of things happen. Classic example of that is the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., where it was started, I believe, during the Civil War, and then they stopped construction. And when they started again, they had a different color stone. So if you look at it, the Washington Monument is two different colors of stone. So think about those kind of things in your project. The more you think about how real life works, I think the better your work comes out. Okay, I think that's probably enough for this section. All right, let's move on to the next step. Okay, now the next step, we're going back to our primary color. And this is almost like a dry brushing technique, all right? We're going to get a sponge with our primary color, and we're just going to start at the top, and we're just going to brush down across the entire surface with our primary color. I'm going to go up here too, just because I don't have room. Okay? What this is going to do is this is going to bring all these colors together. It's going to bring the same color through all the stone, make it look more like it's one kind of stone. Okay. You don't have to overthink this step. If this step is taking you a long time, you're doing it wrong, it's fast. Done. Okay? Okay, now for the next step, grab your black spray paint. Now, the black spray paint is great, especially for buildings that are like in Europe, where they have a lot of coal dust and soot and black that settles onto the buildings. You don't have to do the whole surface. It's really good to focus on any kind of a flat surface where dust might settle. You definitely want to hit those. Here, I like to hit, if I have any cracks or anything, I kind of like to hit them with a little bit. Okay? Okay, this isn't close, this is from up high. Okay. I like to kind of angle down from above, thinking about dust settling on the surface. How is it going to lay? Okay, you don't have to do the whole wall by any means. Just hit some accents. Okay. There might be some areas that are a little darker than others. Corners are a real good place to hit a little more because dirt's going to settle and collect in those corners. Okay. That's about it. Okay. Fine. All right. Now, the last step is the wash. Now, the wash, you can either do it now while everything is a little bit wet, or you can wait till it completely dries. If you wait until it completely dries, it has the advantage that you can always, if you don't like it, you can always come back over it with water and do it again. The advantage of doing it while it's wet is it blends these colors together even more. It can give you a really good effect. It really looks like one piece, not painted stones all of a sudden. But so it's going to be up to you. I would suggest at first go ahead and let it dry because that's much more forgiving. All right, so we're going to let this dry and come back and wash it. When you mix the wash, there's no hard and fast rule. I'd say something about like 5 to 1, 5 parts water to 1 part black paint would be a pretty heavy wash. Just maybe start off with something lighter, like 10 to 1. That way the effect won't be quite as strong and you can come back over it a couple of times. So I've probably got maybe a couple quarts of water down in there. I'm just going to throw in, that's probably not even 10 to 1. I'm going to throw in a little black paint and see how that works. Okay, ready to go here. All right, you start at the top and let it kind of work down. Now this is going to do several things. One, it's going to really mute the colors a little bit. It's also going to run into all the texture in the styrofoam, make that pop a little bit, and it's going to get down and flow a little bit like real rainwater and dirt would in the real world. Now, like I said, I recommend you go slow. Now, the other thing that happens here is often you put that first coat on and it looks super heavy. You come back to it 10 minutes later and it has completely disappeared. That's okay. You can either go over it again, maybe make your mix a little bit stronger, whatever you want to do. Just play around with it. What I would recommend, though, is before you do a big section of wall, get your technique down so it's consistent. All right? There it is. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to come back and show you some other little techniques we can do just to add some detail. Okay, now we're mostly dry at this point. I just want to show you a couple of last techniques just to add a little bit of detail. This is a highlighting technique. I probably wouldn't use this technique on a flat stone like this, but if I were using it on stone that had more relief to it, like a natural stone wall type thing, this is a good technique to use just to give you a little detail, a little more depth to the project. And the idea is here you want to highlight high parts, the highest parts of your work. And I like to think about the direction the light would be coming from. And then always brush in that direction. So let's say I wanted the light to be coming from the upper left here. I would just take probably my base color or maybe even a white, get a really dry brush, sponge, so you don't want a lot of paint on there, and just come and brush down from that direction. All right, there you go. Now another variation on this, I don't have a bottle here. Another variation is to throw in a little white and then hit it with some water and it'll run down. That could look like bird poo or whatever. A lot of different techniques. So have fun playing with it. See what you can do. Throw some paint up there. My biggest suggestion to you, if you want to try different things, think about how things really work. Think about how water runs. Think about how stones are cut and what that might do to the colors in them. Think about the real world. It will really help out your project. All right, happy Hobby Fanatic fans.